Right then, welcome back. Still Breakfast Central on News Central on a Monday. Just as a reminder, you can always catch us here at News Central TV on Instagram, Facebook, and not forgetting Twitter, and watch us live on YouTube and use the hashtag NC Breakfast Central. Also log on to the website www.newscentral.africa. Quickly we go, yes, and go to the events on Saturday, February the 13th, 2021. The Lekki tollgate, well, in Lagos saw the massive deployment of policemen and other security officials, all aimed at stalling the proposed Occupy Lekki tollgate protest. Now, the call for the protest came barely a day after the controversial decision of the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on the 6th of February to allow the Lekki Concession Company to repossess the tollgate.
Now, to counter the planned February 13th Occupy Lekki tollgate protest at the tollgate plaza, some other youth came up with the hashtag Defend Lagos as well. And they said they will hold that at the same venue. Now, the Occupy Lekki protest was to express displeasure with the Judicial Panel, which has been accused of failing to address the issues concerning the shooting at the tollgate on October 20th, 2020, as well as government's inability to account for the lives that were lost at the tollgate. On Thursday, before the planned protest, the Lagos State government and the State Police Command in a joint press conference warned against the planned protest.
Now, the Lagos Commissioner of Police, Hakeem Odumosu, issued a stern warning to various groups planning to embark on protests at the Lekki Toll Plaza, advising them to shelve the plan. And News Central was at the tollgate on Saturday. About 30, something Nigerians were arrested but later released on bail after lawyers got involved at various, stations across the city. Now, many issues have come up against running police brutality and the rights to protest and the government's sincerity and accountability. These are images from Saturday, early morning. We had News Central's Bernard Arcade at the wee hours of the morning. This man, clearly the comedian, popularly known as Mr. Macaroni, like Sam pointed out earlier, that's him there after he was stripped of his, top shirt clothing, and that was a real, packing of people in whatever vehicle that was there. And Bernard gave us so many insight of what was happening there. There was, well, at least there were lots of pressmen, that was for sure. I was also there much later during the day to see things for myself. I think about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. No arrest was made as at that time because we had very little people coming for protests at that point. But it was a clear case of where you looked around the toll gate, it was just police and security personnel all day.
And then something interesting for me personally happened. We'd seen the harsh line from the police commissioner here in Lagos State. We also heard from Lai Mohammed, who's the Minister of Information, hearing also from Lagos State. And I think this is where we'll bring in our guest, constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst Liborous Oshoma, is joining us now as we get into the aftermath of this. And when you heard that the Lagos State Police Commissioner, as well as the Minister of Information, as well as the state government, had basically taken a hard line against protesting after the announcement or the call for these protests, what were your initial thoughts? Because we're seeing a situation where anytime someone wants to do something that seems to protest or be against government, we see this harsh line coming out. What did you think when you saw the press conference and you heard, especially from the Minister of Information?
I didn't expect anything less. In all my life in Nigeria, as a Nigerian, as a young student union activist, there have never been any protest in Nigeria where there are no police presence. Even at some point, you remember there was time it was in this country where the police would tell you that you need a permit to even protest. Even like Alhaji Lai Mohammed alluded to it. So I wasn't expecting anything, less from the government. And mind you, last week, I told you that Nigeria is a lawless society. And so it becomes illegal to be law-abiding. That is why when you try to be law-abiding, the government will clamp down heavily on you. But the more violent you are, the more government wants to negotiate and discuss with you. And that's why you see some government officials even proposing amnesty for bandits, proposing carrot and stick approach. Meanwhile, people who are peaceful, carrying out the peaceful protest in compliance with the right donated to them by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you see the policemen, in armored gear, war and battle ready, all coming out to harass them. even arrest innocent road users because they are not violent. On Friday, right in front of the police headquarters in Lagos, the Camp Salem House in Lagos, thugs, Batobalende, were fighting, and for almost 1 hour, the police were nowhere to be found. Right in front of their headquarters, you didn't see this kind of deployment of armored, ready, war-ready, combat-ready policemen, because, like I said, the more violent you are in Nigeria, the more legal, you'll be perceived to be by the authority. And unfortunately, these are people who benefited from protest. These are people who benefited from criticism. And they're in government today, and they tell you protest is illegal, and they're taking us back to the days of the military. And also, apart from Lai Mohammed, I also read a statement credited to Special Advisor to the President, LaurettaOnochie, to the fact that the police conducted themselves professionally, and she was giving kudos to the police. And for me, I say people like LaurettaOnochie are people who hardly engage their brain before they open their mouth.
Oh,
that's
quite heavy.
Yes, I am saying it because
very damning.
If she does, the same police.
It almost is like a personal tete-a-tete between you and her.
No, it is not, because the police commissioner in Lagos State, Hakeem Odumosun, did come out to admit the fact that some of his men did not behave professionally. So if the man at the epicenter is proposing setting up a committee to investigate the behavior of the policemen on that day, and from videos that we have seen, including clips on your platforms and other television and media houses, the police have been seen to indiscriminately arrest, in some cases, even manhandle. And then you have a presidential aide at this time in the country where there's so much insecurity, a presidential aide giving kudos to the police. For me,
it was a bit of a tense situation, because I remember, following the proceedings even right here in the studio, and linking up with Ben, and I was asking him, okay, what is going on there, apart from truly there was no gunshots there. By the time I even got there, nothing really happened. Even between the press and the police relationship, there was this attempt at, look, we must be civil here, whether as pressmen or even for police themselves, because it was almost like a volatile situation where nobody wanted anything to escalate beyond. Yes, arrests have been made. Brutality was talked about, but not maybe heavy-handedness, apart from those who were arrested. So maybe that's why the police commissioner is saying, okay, some officers didn't behave well, but there was this air of, look, we just got to be civil here. If not, it could have escalated. The question,
quickly, let's so that we need to pigeonhole some of these issues. How do you arrest? How do you make a police arrest or a civil arrest, especially when there's no breakdown of law and order, especially when the person that you are arresting is somebody who is armless?
Now, that brings me to my question, Liborous, about the charges that were made. We saw these protesters, they've been charged to court. These charges include, peace of violation, public health law, and all that. Do you think these charges will stand? Because as they were picked up, will these charges stand for those who are arrested now?
It's obvious that the government really, has completely, lost it. And so they do not, it's like fishing for, cherry picking for charges. What we have made arrests, we can't just let them go, so that it doesn't look as if in the first place we had no legal backing to arrest. And so let's look for something. Whether the court will free them, it's another thing, but let's just look for something to hang on them. And that's why you hear a violation of protocols, peaceful. And then you begin to ask yourself, when people gather peacefully, and then you that came, to the police that came to arrest and scatter the peaceful protest, who is more violent in this case here, who should be charged? And mind you, this protest, what originated this protest? It was police brutality. It was police. That's why till date it is NSAS. It was the attitude and the mentality.
I'm even closer, and I wish we had better. Can we even say the protest actually even happened? Because it felt to me, especially from the time I spent at the ground, that this was an attempted protest that really did not hold.
Are we looking at protest in terms of numbers?
What is protest? I can decide.
Can protest.
I can decide to carry a placard and say I'm protesting against, you know, a statement made by the president. I can go on hunger strike as protest.
And I want to listen. Will I be wrong, even as a journalist, to frame it like a foiled protest?
No, it wasn't. When you say foil the protest, when you say a foiled protest, it means that people didn't even come out at all. What they attempted to do,
as a result of what they saw, basically on the night before, with heavy.
But what about those who came out and were arrested?
What they attempted to do before was, there was this allegation that there was going to be a counter protest by some other persons, and so government wants to ensure that there's no breakdown of law and order. But I think they also now thought through their plans, because they knew the last protest, when they deployed these thugs that they used to rig election, the moment they deployed them, it went out of control and properties were destroyed. And so they thought through their plan, and they felt if we take this same approach, we might arrive at the same result that we got the last time, where these youth, these thugs we can't control, might unleash mayhem. And so, quickly, and so on that day you didn't see a counter protest. But yet the police came out. There
was a vehicle, and Bernard confirmed this live, that drove through the toll gate and shared flyers about hashtag defend Lagos. Yes,
a vehicle sharing flyers is different from people coming out to say we won't allow you to protest. We want to defend Lagos. And yet, see what usually happens. Even under the military, the police would come out and ensure that you gather peacefully.
Yes.
And if you're marching, they march with you and maintain law and order. But when police begin to arrest even people who were innocent bypasser, also I can tell you, do you know, as far as play feed in Bagada and some areas in Antony village, the police did not allow even young boys that usually come out to play football. They say no, that we have been given instruction, nobody should be allowed to gather. And what that tells you is that a government that is not capable of protecting its citizens against rapers, against kidnappers, against killers, militants and headsmen. You're giving amnesty to militants. You're proposing amnesty to terrorists. You're proposing amnesty to bandits. And yet you hound innocent protesters in Black Maria, aided by the owners, the concession company, aided by the concession company at the Lekki toll gate. What you're telling the people is that you do not need to be law-abiding, and that's frightening.
Liborous, I need to ask, because this is also a question about what happens next. So we've seen this situation, we've seen them charged to courts, magistrate courts, but we've also seen a few of those involved with the judicial panels, and that's really my area of concern. We spoke to Chukwuka Osonwa last week. He's a member of the Anambra judicial panel. Yesterday, 5 of them said they're no longer going to sit for that panel, that the governor is insincere. They've suspended sitting since December, and they have not been recalled back. They were not even fully financed well. We saw Rinu Oduala. She's one of the youth representatives of the Lagos panel. She did a thread a few days ago and said she's no longer sitting at the panel as well. We've seen Abdul Mahmoud, who is one of the lawyers for some of the families and some of the people who are going before the panels, and he has called on not just the youth reps, but civil society and the National Human Rights Commission to immediately remove themselves from the judicial panels. So what next? If they remove themselves from the judicial panels, can justice be served? Can justice be served even if they stay on the judicial panels? I
told you last week or so that the judicial panel of inquiry was a journey to nowhere. The government did not intend to achieve anything with it. What they intended was, oh, you want a panel? We'll give you a panel. And so we have given you one. And that's why in some states, the panels are not funded. In Lagos, because the Lagos is the epicenter and all eyes are on Lagos, you have a lot of press people, and so these things will be covered here. And that's why you still see them sitting. And if this had not happened, I tell you, even the police would have challenged the recommendations of the panel by virtue of Section 1, subsection 1 of the Lagos State Administration of Criminal, Lagos State Panel of Inquiry laws. You know, so all of that would have also dragged on, and then those that died would have died for nothing. And that's why, you know, fella will say you die for nothing, and it is frightening.
But many will really frown, you know, at this whole processing for panel of inquiries being a fruitless exercise.
Because
what happened has happened.
Because, like I said, you have, if you look at the law setting up the National Human Rights Commission, the National Human Rights Act 2010 as amended, there is no law in the whole world. There's no national human rights law in the whole world that is as encompassing as that. So if we truly needed to, provide restitution, they have offices across the board in every state of the federation. What the governors would have done would have been to collaborate with the president and the National Human Rights Commission, first and foremost, to set up this panel of inquiry. So the issue of jurisdiction would have been taken care of properly. And so once that happens, once those recommendations are made, it is the governor can now fully say, no, we know that nobody will challenge the jurisdiction of the panel, and then we can implement. But where a governor is a trusted party in a matter, the governor is the one setting up the panel of inquiry, and then the report will go to him. It is him that will implement. It is like the police who is interested in a matter telling you they are going to set up a panel to investigate themselves. Meanwhile, the protest was against the police, and you are expecting, as a Nigerian, you are expecting justice. You have a long-term comment.
One question, that boggles my imagination before I let you go, Liborous, and I'm sure every Nigerian or perhaps African should be concerned about this, that what is the future of protests in this country? Now, if a planned protest, which is clearly publicized like this, was perhaps foiled or scuppered or attemptedly or quashed or whatever, it didn't happen, is this a precedent that's going to going forward, where people who want to plan protests, have we lost that right to do so with what we've seen?
No, not at all. Not at all. You see, sorry, quickly, in answering your question, why all of this were going on, the governor's media aide were splashing photographs of the governor buying roasted plantain by the roadside to distract attention. But I am very happy that he got the backlash that he got. Very insensitive, thing to do at that time. And what this would do is to further embolden the people, because with this now, you see the government is at a loss. They don't even know how to charge them. They don't know what to do. So you have made arrests.
At a loss, you say, but it looks like it might be a pattern going forward. That if there's a protest that's going to be planned, just deploy your policemen a couple of hours before.
Let me give you an instance. This morning, I was reading an article, and somebody asked the question, said, what is the prison capacity in Nigeria? It's about 51,000 inmates. And currently, they have about 60-something thousand inmates. That's about, with excess of close to 12,000. And if you arrest 500,000 protesters, where are you going to keep them? And that's the new, message going around. And so you have a lot of young people who are tired of the way things are done. You cannot use violence to keep them at home. You can only use good governance. You can only appeal to them through your actions to keep them at home. But just imagine with the messages and the position of the police, you still saw that people came out on Saturday. A lot of people had thought that young people will stay back and stay at home. But you saw the numbers that came out. With the videos that are making the round and the government helpless on how to charge or what to do, you will see the next protest, you're going to have more people. This was how Occupy Lekki toll gate started, and people thought it was not going to occupy Nigeria. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, the NSAS protest started, and people thought it was not going to last beyond 2 or 3 days, but we saw how it lasted. Yes. Gradually, people are beginning to take back their rights to protest, and the government action, it's not also towing the right way. The best way to quell protest is to provide good governance and ensure that when they are protesting, you protect and make sure there's no breakdown of law and order. Otherwise, the consequences are grave.
I feel like the situation always with Liborous is that we're still at the beginning of the conversation, because there's so much more. And people will ask, particularly as Olisa mentioned, about the judicial panels. What happens next? Have we wasted months? Have we wasted money? Have we done nothing for victims who have had to recount their trauma
has it been
for
a
no end? So we have
Yeah.
to keep this conversation going, and we hope that you will keep this conversation going with us online at News Central TV. Don't forget as well, you can use our hashtag. Liborous is with us, but we will be using this opportunity to wrap up the show. There's a lot of comments. A lot of things happen behind the scenes that don't always make it to the television in front of you, but please don't forget, use the hashtag NC Breakfast Central to be part of all of our conversations today, tomorrow, and into the near future.
Yeah, so we're still going to be following this about the fallout of what really happened, especially for the rights of the protester in this country after this.